Hi guys, this is Maliki Rails, and today I've got an exciting topic I think you're going to love. We're going to dive into ExpressoTS, a new framework that's been gaining attention as a strong competitor to Nest. If you're a developer looking for a robust and scalable solution for building server-side applications, you will definitely want to stick around for this. So what exactly is ExpressoTS? It's a TypeScript plus Node.js lightweight framework for quickly building scalable, easy to read and maintain server-side applications. Much like Nest.js, ExpressoTS leverages the power of TypeScript to provide a well-structured and type-safe environment for building complex applications. ExpressoTS brings its own unique features and advantages to the table, making it a compelling choice for developers looking for flexibility and performance in their projects. We'll explore these unique aspects throughout the video, so you can see how ExpressoTS stands out in the crowded landscape of web frameworks. In this video, we'll cover a few key areas. We'll start with an overview of ExpressoTS and how it stacks up against Nest.js. Then, we'll walk through the installation and setup process, create a simple example application, and explore some of its advanced features. Finally, we'll discuss the pros and cons of using ExpressoTS and wrap up with my final thoughts. Whether you're already familiar with Nest.js and curious about alternatives, or you're just starting out your journey with TypeScript frameworks, this video will provide you with valuable insights into ExpressoTS. So let's get started and see what ExpressoTS has to offer. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is actually install ExpressoTS. So to do that, install Node.js from nodejs.org, and then after that, run npm install ExpressoTS/CLI. So I'm going to open up my Windows terminal. I'm going to go to the command prompt, copy this command, and then run it. It's giving me some warnings, but that's not to worry about. And so it looks like it's installed. Then what I'm going to do is just make a directory called ExpressoTS. So make dir ExpressoTS, and then inside of here, I'm going to do cd ExpressoTS, and then inside of here, we're going to create our new project. So I'll say ExpressoTS new project name. So that's how to create a new ExpressoTS project. You do ExpressoTS new, and then after that, I'm going to call it YouTube. So that's the name of my project. Hit enter. It's going to ask me project name YouTube. I'm going to hit enter again to confirm. Then package manager npm opinionated. The difference is that opinionated automatically scaffolds resources into a preset project structure, whereas the non-opinionated version allows users to choose where to scaffold resources, offering flexible project organization. But for this tutorial, I'm going to go with opinionated because it'll be faster. Do you want to create this project? Yes. So it looks like it's installing dependencies, so that's great. And now it says after about 10-15 seconds, it says project YouTube created successfully. Run the following commands to start the project. So I'm going to run those commands, cd into the project, and then we're going to start it. Cd YouTube, and then we're going to npm run dev, and that's going to run the project in development mode. Allow access. And so now that we've got our new application, we can actually get to build something. So that's how to install and create a new project with ExpressoTS. So now that we've got our application, we're going to do code dot to open up in Visual Studio Code. So this is what comes pre-made with the opinionated version of a new ExpressoTS project. We've got a lot of files and folders here, so I'll just go through them quickly. Node modules has the installed dependencies. The source folder contains the application source code. The test folder has the test files. ESLint.js has all of the ESLint configuration. Gitignore specifies files or directories Git should ignore. Prettier has prettier formatting rules. ExpressoTS.config.ts has ExpressoTS configuration. Package.json has project metadata and dependencies. PackageLock.json has a lock file for dependency versions. The README is project documentation. RegisterPath.js has path registration or configuration. tsconfig.build.json has TypeScript build configuration. And tsconfig.json is the main TypeScript configuration. So now that we've got a good understanding of all these files and folders, let's try and get a hello world response by going to the application in the Thunder client. We'll go to extensions in VS Code and search up Thunder client. You're going to need to install this to do this. So it's a lightweight REST API client for VS Code. So click install and then install it. Now that we have our fresh application, all we have to do to get a hello world response is go to the Thunder client, and then what we can do is we can say new request, and then we can go HTTP localhost port 3000. Then we can send this request, and we have to make sure that we're actually running npm run dev. So go to your CMD and run npm run dev to start the server. Then click send, and as you can see, we're getting hello from ExpressoTS. Time 13 milliseconds, status 200 OK. So that is how to get a response with the Thunder client. Now I'm going to explain two key concepts of ExpressoTS and then give my final thoughts. First, we're going to be talking about middleware. Middleware is crucial in handling requests and responses in any web application, and ExpressoTS makes it incredibly straightforward to integrate and manage. Let's explore how you can leverage middleware to supercharge your application. First, let's talk about what middleware actually is. In ExpressoTS, middleware functions are essential components of the request-response cycle. They allow you to execute code, modify request and response objects, end the request-response cycle, or pass control to the next middleware function. It's important to call the next function to avoid request timeouts, unless your middleware ends the cycle. ExpressoTS integrates seamlessly with the extensive ecosystem of Express middleware. This means you can take advantage of a wide array of middlewares to enhance your application. Here's a list of some middleware available in ExpressoTS, which includes popular options like Add Body Parser, Add CORS, Add Helmet, and many more. These middlewares help you handle tasks like parsing request bodies, managing CORS, enhancing security, and much more. Let's see how we can add middleware to our ExpressoTS application. You can add middleware globally or per route. Here's how you do it globally. To add middleware globally, you can use the app class and the this.middleware property. For example, you can configure it in the configure services method like this. Here, we've added the add body parser, add CORS, and add helmet middlewares globally. This means every request will go through these middlewares before reaching your route. But what if you want to add middleware to specific routes or controllers? That's possible too. You can add middleware to specific routes using the add middleware method, or you can apply middleware to all routes within a controller using the @controller decorator. ExpressoTS also allows you to create custom middleware. To do this, extend the Expresso middleware class and implement the use method. Here's a simple example. With custom middleware, you can pass parameters and apply complex logic as needed. Lastly, if you want to see all the middlewares in your pipeline, you can use the view middleware pipeline method. Just call it like this. That's a wrap on middleware in ExpressoTS. The next crucial concept I want to cover in ExpressoTS are entities. Entities are the core components of an application, representing the data that your application will manipulate. Let's dive into what entities are, how to use them effectively, and some best practices to keep in mind. Entities in ExpressoTS serve as the building blocks of your application. They encapsulate the data and often interact with use cases and controllers. Let's start with a simple example of an entity in ExpressoTS. So here's a user entity. In this example, the user entity has an ID, name, and email. The ID is generated when a new instance is created using UUID v4. This entity represents a user and can be manipulated throughout the application. Now let's discuss encapsulation and the concept of an anemic domain model. Traditionally, classes or entities encapsulate data and provide methods to manipulate it. But in some cases, entities can be kept simple, with just data, and avoid complex logic. This approach is known as the anemic domain model. It's a topic of debate, but worth considering for simplicity and maintainability. With the anemic domain model, entities become straightforward data containers, making them easier to manage. This model focuses on the data rather than the behavior. Next, let's talk about dependency injection with entities. If your entity needs dependencies, you can inject them using the inject decorator. Here's how. Consider this updated user entity that requires a logger dependency. By using the inject decorator, you can inject the logger into the user entity, but avoid using primitive parameters in constructions for injection. The DI container struggles to manage these primitive values effectively. Here's an example of what to avoid. Using primitives like strings or numbers can lead to ambiguity and inflexibility. Instead, you can use factories to handle entity creation with primitive parameters. Let's look at a factory pattern to manage entity creation. Here, user factory creates user instances with the required properties. You can inject user factory into other classes, keeping your entity creation logic separated from the entry itself. We've covered a lot about ExpressoTS, and it's time for some final thoughts. First, I think the support for middleware is robust. With built-in middleware options and the ability to easily add custom middleware, ExpressoTS provides a lot of flexibility in handling requests and responses. You can configure global middleware, add it per route, and even create custom middleware to fit your specific needs. Second, entities in ExpressoTS are the backbone of your application's data layer. They represent the core data and are essential for your application's functionality. ExpressoTS promotes a clean separation of concerns, encouraging simple, data-focused entities while leveraging dependency injection and factory patterns to manage complexity. Third, the integration with dependency injection and the emphasis on using factories rather than injecting primitive parameters ensures that your design remains flexible and maintainable. By following best practices for dependency management and entity design, you can avoid common pitfalls and create a more scalable application. ExpressoTS embraces the strengths of TypeScript, offering strong typing and modern development practices, while maintaining compatibility with the Express middleware ecosystem. Whether you're building a small app or a large-scale system, its features help you build efficient, reliable, and maintainable applications. If you're considering giving ExpressoTS a try, I encourage you to explore its documentation, experiment with its features, and see how it fits into your development workflow. This was quite a deep dive into ExpressoTS. If you have any questions or thoughts, drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, then subscribe, and then I'll see you in the next one.